welcome to Good Game. I'm Bajo.
And I'm Hex. This week on the show, we travel beyond our earthly realm to explore a variety of new and different worlds, starting with Lifeless Planet.
Also this week, the choices you make will have lasting impacts. In the point-and-click thriller, Gods Will Be Watching.
Plus, we return to Oddworld for something new and tasty.
And stinky.
The big face said I'd learn much through my quests.
And we speak with 5 Brisbane developers who banded together to bring back a 90s classic.
It's a futuristic, cyberpunk, dystopian, fully simulated city. We wanted to return to the roots of the game and go back to that RTS isometric style gameplay.
Chock as app. Let's get into it. But before all that, can you name the game for this week?
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 25 seconds.
When you and a team of scientists set out to explore a new planet filled with life forms, disaster strikes when your spacecraft crashes. You find yourself separated from your crew, you're low on oxygen, and it turns out there's not much of anything on this new world at all. This is Lifeless Planet.
Or is it?
Now, I wasn't quite sure what to make of this game at first. It's brought to us by indie developer Stage 2 Studios, and is apparently inspired by classic adventure games like The Dig and Another World. But it takes a good while to get going, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. As I wandered around the planet with not much of anything around to do or interact with, I had the worrying feeling of, is this it? But exploring the vastness of that desolate landscape, I really did get a sense of what it must be like to land on another planet and feel totally alone.
Yeah, that's true. I also like that there's very little to guide you in any direction except for the subtlest of formations or flashes of light in the distance. It almost reminded me of Journey in that way. You know, you find yourself drawn in a particular direction but you don't know why.
Once you find yourself some oxygen, you can then set out to explore this new world in search of life. This game is described as a puzzle platformer, and my second worry came when I found that the puzzles weren't that challenging.
I need to get up there somehow.
Yeah, I got it, buddy.
Yeah, it didn't bode well for the fun factor. But then the game takes an interesting turn, doesn't it? Turns out you weren't the first to discover this planet. Abandoned civilization and further investigation uncover a former Russian settlement who had arrived on this planet and begun experimenting with its then abundant life and vegetation.
But something clearly went wrong because...
everybody's dead.
So dead.
These graves seem pretty makeshift.
All that's left is a mysterious trail of scientific logs and diaries for you to follow in order to try and figure out what happened here. So you continue through this strange world, uncovering the clues and events of the past and the secrets this planet holds, and as you do, you'll start to come across some pretty incredible landscapes. Former Soviet structures and strange alien organisms. It all started to grow on me, Hex.
Me too. It is slow to start and, well, let's be honest, it's a slow burn throughout.
Yes, you will spend a lot of your time just running.
But there is a mystery at the core of this game that I felt compelled to uncover, and each new area is just so strange and different. You know, I can always tell how much I've loved exploring in a game by how many screenshots I've taken by the end, and even though this isn't the most graphically impressive game, I took a lot of screenshots.
Yeah, me too. It makes you feel like a true explorer, doesn't it? The unfamiliarity of the land, coupled with the unsettling nature of what happened before you, drives you ever deeper into the story. And there's a bit of space nerdery to bask in as you discover more complex structures, both human and non-human.
Not to mention the puzzle platforming started to get a little more interesting, which was a relief. It's never anything too taxing, mostly figuring out the best way to navigate the terrain or power up alien structures in order to progress. But you also have a little jetpack which you occasionally get extended booster fuel for, and I just love jetting my way across rocky platforms. Woo! Oh no!
Ah, jetpacks. Jetpacks just make me happy, Hex. I think where this game really falls down though is in those transitions between areas and also the cutscenes. It's quite rough and often abrupt. Occasionally, a short cutscene will end and suddenly you're in a new area, which kills that sense of continuity. I also could have done with a few more puzzles and a lot less running. And once again, this is a story-driven game which is fed to you through letters and diaries, and I'm just getting a bit tired of that.
I don't mind story diaries as long as they're succinct, which these were, I think. And, you know, I made my peace with the running. I kind of just zenned out after a while and embraced the journey because there was so much to take in.
But there were quite a few areas that felt repeated to me, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the game could have used some heavy-handed editing, it's true. What did you think of the ending? I would have loved it if it weren't for the clunky awkwardness of the transitions you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it is frustrating, isn't it? I did like the little post-credit reveal, though.
Yeah, me too, although I didn't quite understand it. But a bit of online research led me to find out that this game was also very influenced by Tolstoy's Elita, which makes a lot of sense after reading the book's plot summary, and now I want to read the whole thing.
What are you going to give it overall, Hex?
Well, I love the way this game awakened a wonderful sense of curiosity in me, so I'm giving it 6.5.
Yeah, there is a magic to this game and the setting, and I love that, but I just feel like it's a bit too rough for its asking price, so I'm going to give it 5.5.
And now here's Goose with the news. Don't you look over there.
Making headlines for this week, reports are suggesting that Google has finalized a deal to purchase live streaming service Twitch Interactive for $1 billion US.
We wish you the best of luck on the battlefield. Anything you'd like to say to the people watching and any supporters of C'est La Vie?
Though no official statement has been released by either Twitch or Google, sources close to the matter have confirmed the deal. Google will be folding Twitch into its YouTube branch, but it's unclear whether the Twitch name and branding will remain. An Xbox 360 and its Kinect unit have played an important role in the arrest of a UK robber. 19-year-old Jay Giorgio and an unidentified accomplice broke into a home in East Sussex, wielding a handgun, demanding money and drugs from the tenants. Little did the assailants know that the whole ordeal was being broadcast live through the console. A friend of the victims heard the commotion over voice chat and notified the police. Giorgio was arrested just 2 hours later and has since been sentenced to 8 years jail. And finally, a team of Australian programmers have installed id Software's classic Doom on a decommissioned Auto Teller machine. The ATM was running Windows XP, meaning very few software modifications were required. The real challenge was in the hardware. A custom circuit board was used to remap the ATM's buttons to allow for streamlined demon slaying. And that's all the news for this week.
That Goose, he sure knows how to news.
He sure does.
Gods Will Be Watching is a crowd-funded point-and-click sci-fi thriller where every point you point and every click you click truly matters.
Your job is to look after a crew. They're trying to stop a virus called Medusa from falling into the wrong hands. The story deals with political themes such as terrorism, slavery, and genocide. It can be hard to follow in one playthrough, but it's deep enough for what this game is trying to achieve, I think.
Yeah, the real drama is what goes on between your crew and the situations that they're put in. There are 6 chapters which all have unique problems and mechanics for you to figure out.
The art design of the game is retro minimal. There aren't many locations, and most of the time you're staring at screens like this.
It's quite static, isn't it? But much like the indie title Papers, Please, it's really the action that goes on in your head that matters.
Yes, the gameplay is fueled by the decisions you're forced to make and then how you feel when things go wrong.
We're going to do the best we can, but it's quite difficult to explain this game, I think, to someone who hasn't actually played it.
Yeah, basically it's turn-based, sort of. Each red action you make, which is when the text shows up red, is a turn. And these turns are framed differently for each mission. This keeps the game feeling fresh even after an hour of the same screen. The core of the game is about resource and time management.
Yes, the first mission, for example, is about hacking. And first of all, I love the hacking sprite. Isn't he great?
Me too, yeah. It's exactly how I imagine hacking to look like in the future.
In this mission, you're in charge of keeping control of hostages, keeping the police at bay, making sure you don't push the hack too far, keeping the hack secure, and keeping your own guard in line so it keeps doing what you want him to. There's just so many systems of spinning plates that you have to keep an eye on at all times, and it's brutal on normal difficulty. You will fail a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of like each mechanic and NPC have their own invisible stats and dice rolls playing out each turn, so you can never expect what they're going to do or what will happen to them.
The second mission is the one that I thought was the most interesting. 2 of your team are being tortured for information, and you have to make choices about how much punishment they can take, how much you can lie, when to provoke your interrogators, what to give away, and when to beg for mercy. The violence is sudden and affecting, especially if you mistakenly push things too far.
It's an intense situation to be put in as a gamer, forcing your characters to take punishment just to delay the torturer enough to survive. But give everything away and they'll kill you because they don't need you anymore.
I found this really simply animated torture sequence much more affecting than any other gore-filled torture sequence I've played before, such as with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, and when your torturer starts Russian roulette? Man, so much is at stake because the game is so hard and these levels are so long. So a fail is a big deal.
I found this to be such an interesting game.
Yeah, isn't it? It's so wonderful to see a point-and-click game reshaped into this kind of experience. And it's always interesting when you see your stats up against the rest of the world at the end of each mission, much like they do in Telltale games.
For me, all the fun in this game was working out the specific mechanics for each particular scenario and its breaking points. Such as when you're stranded on a planet and food is scarce, and you start thinking about killing one of your teammates just to survive. It has so many advantages because you get food from the dead body, but also you don't have to feed one more person. But of course, someone gets upset about it.
Well, at least you didn't kill the dog, Bajo.
No, I wouldn't do that. Although I did do that in the previous chapter because I needed to do an experiment. A dog autopsy or genocide? Make a choice. But I think we should wrap this up because if we talk about it in detail anymore, it may take away from the experience for anyone who wishes to play it.
Yes. For me, I think I liked the writing the most. Snappy dialogue and a snappy interface. If I had one criticism, maybe it would be that the difficulty kind of just goes up and down a bit, but that's kind of also part of the fun. I think it's worth a 7 out of 10.
I love how much this game stresses you out. Why I think it really works is because your objective is always clear, but your strategy isn't. I'm giving it 8.5.
Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten.
My first gaming love, and I remember it so clearly because it was a terrifying experience, Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1.
No! Don't go!
Resident Evil.
This house is dangerous. There are terrible demons.
And the reason why I loved it is because I went to play it at a mate's place in Brisbane, and he comes from a very wealthy family, and they live in a terrifying mansion.
Wow, what a mansion!
And his parents were away for the weekend. And so we set up the console, we set up the game, and we played Resident Evil for 3 days solidly because I hadn't bought a memory card, so I couldn't save my game. So we had to keep playing. And every time I had to go to the bathroom, we had to go together because the mansion that we were playing it in was exactly the same as the mansion in the game in Resident Evil. So I think it was just not just the incredibly high-quality experience of the first Resident Evil game, but just the context I was in and the time of my life, and this stupid decision not to pay an extra $8 for a memory card that kept me committed to playing it start to finish over the course of this long weekend. That, for me, is just one of the most memorable gaming experiences. And I wasn't even working in the games industry at the time, but I just made that decision that this is clearly something I love. What I choose to do with my life needs to be something that I love. And the two just came together for me within the kind of 2 years after that. I moved to the UK, started working in the games industry, and that was like 15 years ago. So I've been doing it ever since. I love it. I love it. And it all started there with Resident Evil.
You saved my life. I owe you one.
Sadly, we've seen Australian games development being hit hard by cutbacks and closures in recent years.
But one local developer has managed to navigate these challenges and revive an old classic thanks to crowdfunding.
Satellite Rain is a game that the 5 of us are working on at the moment. We've all recently left Sega Studios Australia as that shut down in Brisbane. It's a futuristic, cyberpunk, dystopian, fully simulated city. And it's based on a game I made about 20 years ago at Bullfrog, which was Syndicate Wars.
Selected.
And it's classed as a spiritual successor to that original game.
Contestants on scanner complete.
We actually came together on the back of a shared love of Syndicate, if you like, in that I made the game and these guys were all like passionate players of the game. So we've actually got an animator, an environment artist, character artist, myself as a programmer, and then we have Chris, who's sort of a jack of all trades. He can animate, level design, program, so we've got all our bases covered for each of the disciplines.
Because I'm the only animator on the team and we're trying to create an entire simulated city, something that really stood out to me was it's much cheaper and easier these days to do motion capture. What people think of when they think of motion capture is the black spandex suit with ping pong balls all stuck to it. That's not really necessary anymore. At the moment I'm using PlayStation Eye cameras. Just with 4 of those set up in a room, as long as you've got good lighting and a bit of space, you can configure them to work together and basically be able to track a person. So we can transfer that animation onto an in-game character.
So Chris and Dean are designing a system where we can kind of take different body parts and join them together to make a civilian.
One of the major things that we have to look out for is the sheer scope of work that we'd have to do to fill out a city, really, of like all the different characters, like your civilians and armed forces, the agents that we've got, all the little mechs and stuff like that. So seeing that we're a small team, we have to think in a very structured, modular fashion. So Chris and I are working on a system with like a wardrobe, effectively, where we can automatically sort of randomize the crowd. I can sort of define key groups that I want, like a punk or a vendor who's selling you some like ramen or something like that. Again, it all comes down to this modular approach of being able to really quickly get a lot of different variety without a lot of overhead.
When you're looking to make a computer game, you've got a few choices of funding, really. You can either fund it yourself, if you happen to have hundreds of thousands in savings to keep a team of 5 people going for a year. We didn't really want to approach publishers because the publishing model is really quite broken these days. People aren't signing up independent studios, and when they do, that's where you find out that even when a publisher wants to work with you, it still takes 6 months just to negotiate contracts, and you've kind of got to survive on your own anyway. And then we only get paid monthly based on passing milestones, and you can miss a milestone and suddenly you're in financial crisis just because perhaps the goalposts have moved a little bit or you've redesigned the game a little bit. We did a Kickstarter to raise funds to go into production on the Satellite Rain game.
But now is a time for change, a time for a new order.
It effectively gives us the creative freedom so that there isn't like this layer of publishers above us and their producers dictating what the game should be. It's kind of an odd situation in that we've now got 15,000 quiet voices all saying it needs to be this game, it needs to be this game. We were building some of the biggest games that were made back in the mid-90s, which is why we had quite large teams, because we were having to invent everything from scratch, like the rendering engine, the navigation, the animation system. That took a whole year before we even started on the gameplay.
A lot of games like the recently released GTA 5, they hand make everything, and they obviously have the budget and the manpower to be able to do that, whereas when you're a smaller team, you have to be a bit smarter about how you work and a bit more sort of efficient. For our environments, we're actually trying to pre-plan how we're going to build our world, so that involves building sort of modular pieces, like a large section of a road. We build like a T intersection and a straight intersection, and then we sort of place them together modularly. They can be rotated in different arrangements, so that can be just plopped down easily by the designer to lay out the city how they want. And then when it comes to actually making it look good, the designer will have already placed their stuff, and I can just go through and redo all the art, dress that once visually, and then just automatically just propagate through the entire level.
So we're using Unity to develop the game. We're starting off with an editor, we're starting off with the world being drawn. It has this thing called Mechanim, which allows animators to just go and chain multiple animations together, blend between them. They're able to do tons and tons of work without a programmer having to implement every animation that they put in.
This has allowed me to really quickly iterate, make lots of different variations. Even if at first glance they look really similar, it goes a long way to just making the city actually look like it's inhabited by people.
The city simulation is kind of a big sandbox that we're throwing you into. There's missions there, but you've got to kind of go and uncover them. In a traditional game, you might be given a mission to go break someone out of a prison. In our game, what we're doing is we're making it so that the prison's there, there's a person in there who could be helpful to you. Maybe there's a scientist locked up there who has some R&D tech gadget that you could use. So the player will decide under their own volition that it's a good idea to go and rescue that scientist from the prison. I'm really excited about how that interweaves with the simulation of the city. So everyone's simulated. There's no kind of scripting of make this person shoot back when I enter this region. They'll purely be reacting to the stimulus of what's going on around them, whether a gunshot is fired, that will make them run away, or they might think, I'm going to go and fight back. We hope to be as surprised by what they do as the player. That's probably the most exciting part for me.
So exciting to see all these new indie games being enabled by crowdfunding, Bajo, especially Aussie-made ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm keen to see how they can recreate that original moody Syndicate vibe.
Well, speaking of classic games of yesteryear, the original Abe's Odyssey was a pretty brutal 2D platformer/puzzle game that came out in 1997 on PlayStation and PC. It instantly won itself fans for its challenging gameplay, humour, and of course the ability to fart on command.
Now we have Oddworld New Tasty, which is a bit more than your average HD re-release. They've essentially just rebuilt the whole thing from scratch with all sorts of improvements. But does old Stitch Lip's first adventure still hold up?
Mullet the Gluckin. My whole life changed in just one day.
This is actually quite a dark story that doesn't shy away from some pretty deep themes.
Yeah, it's not quite as dark as Gods Will Be Watching, but it's certainly not a field of sunshine and puppies.
The game starts with our hero, Abe, already imprisoned inside the gloomy Rupture Farms, the largest meat processing plant in Oddworld. And it's here that Abe and many of his fellow Mudokons have been enslaved their entire lives, where they're forced to help turn the planet's creatures into tasty treats.
But we rounded them up, ignored their cries.
Then we flash back to why Abe is locked away. It all starts when Rapture Farms finds itself driving most of the local fauna to near extinction, and their profits dropping.
They're going down.
That's when Abe discovers the greedy Gluckin's plan to boost profits is to turn him and his pals into popsicles.
It was us!
So what else is there to do but break out and try to free his fellow slaves?
Hex, I love how dark this game is, but there's also this sort of surreal cuteness and charm to it that stops it from being too sad or depressing.
Absolutely. I mean, for an almost naked, emaciated slave with his lips tied shut, he still manages to be somehow endearing.
Yeah, and I think it's partly because he's an underdog character. Just one little guy fighting for what's right against a massive evil corporation that will trample over anything in the pursuit of profit.
Get me out of here!
But mostly I like him because he can fart.
Well, always lightens the mood. Plus, I like the way the story is told through a kind of Dr. Seuss rhyme. It gives it that kind of creepy children's book vibe.
And the strangest thing I saw, the big moon was before me, and its face was my paw.
Gameplay-wise, you basically work your way through levels trying to stay alive by using a mix of puzzle solving, body snatching, precise platforming, and good timing.
And along the way, you can use some basic commands to try and lead any Mudokons you find to safety through these bird portals. There are also these kind of scoreboards around the place which tally how many Mudokons are still alive, how many you've saved, and, well, how many haven't made it.
In the original game, there were 99 Mudokons to save, and in this one, there are 299. Hex, at first, I was determined to save every single one. And I thought I'd combed that first area thoroughly to save them, but when I moved on, well, let's just say I clearly left a few good men behind.
Yeah, I think those guys must have been hiding because I missed them as well.
Yeah, after that happened, I couldn't be bothered saving them anymore, and I was a bit more cavalier with their lives.
Uh-oh. Oh no, knucklehead.
But if you don't do your best and save enough of them, then you have to prepare yourself for a pretty grim ending.
Saving them all really is easier said than done, though. I mean, this is such a brutal game. Basically, anything that isn't the ground can kill you, and even that can't be trusted sometimes. I think I've said oops so many times in a game before. Oops. Oopsie. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's another one.
I think anyone who played Abe's Odyssey remembers that it was brutally hard, rage quit hard. Those checkpoints were just so brutal, and so much trial and error, which is fundamental to figuring out the puzzles. It took a very committed and patient soul to finish it. Back then, committed and patient, I was not.
Yes, but it is much more doable now since one of the new additions is a quick save button. I didn't actually know it was there to begin with, but once I found it, I have to admit I spammed the hell out of it. Jump over a mine, quick save. Get past a grinder, that's a quick save. Possess a slig, oh you better believe that's a quick save.
I love a tough game, and hard difficulty is so in right now, but yeah, I'm glad they added that to take the edge off a bit. It puts you partly in control of the game's challenge and stops you from getting too frustrated or feeling like the game's unfair. Which it totally is sometimes.
Yeah, there was one puzzle where you first have to distract some sligs, then quickly run past them while they shoot at you, hop over some rocks while giant spiky balls swing between the gaps, and then on the last rock there's a little freaking bat that kills you if you stay there too long. Oh, it must have taken me about 20 tries to get past that bit.
Yeah, the game can be a mad troll at times like that, and the quick save doesn't really help you in those tightly timed moments either.
Well, it does a little bit, because it's quicker to respawn with a quick load than it is to wait for the game to do it. I even found myself quick saving at checkpoints just because of that. But other than quick saves and extra Mudokons and the obvious graphical upgrades, not a lot has changed, has it?
No, I do like how the screen now scrolls with you though, instead of it being on individual screens. It just makes things feel more cohesive and smoother. But other than that, I think everything else is pretty much where it was, which is definitely going to get those nostalgia glands swelling for fans of the original. What do you think overall, Hex?
Well, I actually think this is the perfect game to get remade. I mean, 2D games have made a big resurgence over the past few years, and there are some clever puzzles and unique ideas that mean it doesn't actually feel dated at all. If anything, it feels more interesting and modern than some recent 2D games. I liked it a lot. I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, this is old school tough, but it's also rewarding and charming at the same time, so that kind of makes you want to chip away at it until you crack it. I'm giving it 8 as well. Did you name the game for this week? Ready, go! It was Poi Poi, a multiplayer action game where the main mechanic was picking up random items such as rocks, logs, and blocks of ice, and throwing them at other players. There were 6 environments to play through and a range of different characters to play, each with various styles including strength and speed. And it's named the game for this week because it was released in 1997 on the PlayStation 1, just like the original version of this week's Oddworld New Tasty.
Next week, the moment has finally arrived. After thousands of votes and just about as many heated discussions, we're ready to reveal the Good Game Top 100.
In an hour-long special, we'll be counting down to Australia's #1 favourite game as voted by you. There'll be guests along the way and even some laughs.
It's an interesting list as well, lots of surprises.
Yeah, absolutely, but don't go anywhere because now it's my turn to look back over the years and pick some of my favourite games and memories from my time here at Good Game. We'll laugh, we'll cry, and there's also ping pong.
Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out.
I'm really looking forward to your special episode. I think you're going to do like a little piece onto how you got involved in... Hey.